February 14th, 2019, a day that etched itself in the annals of history as one of the darkest days for India. An ordinary day in the heart of winter, the sun was shining brightly, casting long shadows on the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas. The picturesque district of Pulwama, in the northern state of Jammu and Kashmir, was going about its business as usual. Little did anyone know this day of love was about to take a devastating turn. Pulwama, a place known for its apple orchards and natural beauty, was about to become an unwilling participant in a heart-wrenching tragedy. The scenic serenity was shattered as the unthinkable occurred. A convoy of vehicles carrying Central Reserve Police Force personnel, brave men who had left their homes and families to protect those of others, was targeted. The immediate aftermath was a scene of chaos and shock. The air, which was once filled with the scent of apples, now carried the acrid smell of smoke and burnt metal. The lush green fields were now a grisly tableau of destruction. The deafening silence that followed was a stark contrast to the usual hustle and bustle of the day. The victims, Central Reserve Police Force personnel, were caught in the blaze of the sudden attack. These were men who had dedicated their lives to preserving the peace and harmony of the nation. Men who, until moments before, were reminiscing about their families, dreaming about their children, and making plans for their future. The shockwaves of the attack were felt across the nation. The news spread like wildfire, leaving a trail of disbelief and sorrow. The country stood still, trying to comprehend the magnitude of the loss. The usual cacophony of the cities was replaced with a solemn silence. The nation was in mourning. In a blink of an eye, a day of love turned into a day of immense loss and sorrow for the nation. What unfolded on that fateful day was a horrifying act of terrorism, the likes of which had not been seen in recent years. The day was February 14th, a day that would forever be etched in the annals of history as a dark day for India. The attacker was a suicide bomber, armed with a deadly cocktail of explosives. He was no ordinary man, but a puppet in the hands of a terrorist organization, brainwashed and trained for this singular, devastating purpose. The explosives used were not just any explosives. They were high-grade, military-style explosives, the kind that can demolish buildings and rip apart armored vehicles. And the target? A convoy of the Central Reserve Police Force, known as the CRPF, was making its way through the Pulwama district of Jammu and Kashmir. This was not a random target, it was a calculated move, aimed at striking at the heart of India's security forces. The convoy consisted of over 75 vehicles, carrying around 2,500 personnel. The magnitude of the attack was unprecedented. The bomber drove his vehicle into the convoy, triggering the explosives and creating a blast so powerful it could be heard miles away. The destruction was immediate and absolute. Vehicles were reduced to twisted metal, the road was pockmarked with craters, and the air was filled with the acrid smoke of burning metal and explosives. The human cost was even more devastating. 40 brave men of the CRPF who had dedicated their lives to protecting their country were killed in the blast. Many more were injured, their lives forever marked by the horrors of that day. The attack claimed the lives of 40 CRPF personnel, leaving a nation in mourning and a world in shock. The echoes of the explosion had barely died down when the cries for justice began to rise. In the wake of the Pulwama attack, the Indian government was swift in its response. The initial shock and grief quickly gave way to a firm resolve. Justice would be served. The nation's leaders, from the Prime Minister down to local officials, expressed their outrage and sorrow, vowing to hold those responsible to account. The government's response was not limited to words. Concrete actions were taken, including the immediate deployment of security forces to the area and the launch of an intensive investigation. The aim was clear: to track down and apprehend those who had orchestrated this act of terror. Meanwhile, the international community was not silent. Nations around the globe voiced their condemnation of the attack. Messages of solidarity poured in from leaders and citizens alike, from countries both near and far. They expressed their sympathy for the victims and their families and their support for India's pursuit of justice. The United Nations too stepped up. It issued a strong statement condemning the attack, calling it a heinous and cowardly act. The world body urged all nations to cooperate with India in its fight against terrorism. But perhaps the most powerful response came from the people of India themselves. Across the country, millions took to the streets in peaceful protests, expressing their grief, their anger, and their determination. They held candlelight vigils for the victims, their faces a sea of sorrow and resilience. They demanded justice and they demanded peace. The aftermath of the Pulwama attack was marked not only by shock and grief, but also by unity and resolve. The Indian government, the international community and the people of India stood together. Their response is a testament to the universal abhorrence of violence and the shared pursuit of justice. The world stood with India, united in grief and resolute in the pursuit of justice. The quest for justice was not a path laden with roses, but was a journey fraught with thorns. The aftermath of the Pulwama attack was a whirlwind of investigations, a complex web of leads and dead ends that only seemed to grow more entangled as time went on. The pursuit of justice was not just a matter of finding those responsible, but understanding the intricate machinations behind the attack. The investigators faced monumental challenges. They had to sift through the rubble of the attack, painstakingly piecing together the puzzle from fragments of evidence. They had to navigate the labyrinth of international diplomacy and the murky waters of intelligence sharing, all while the clock was ticking and the world was watching. But amidst the challenges, there were breakthroughs. The relentless pursuit bore fruit when the intricate web of evidence pointed towards the involvement of Jaish-e-Mohammed, a Pakistan-based terrorist group. The group, already notorious for its violent activities, was now under the global spotlight. The revelation was a turning point in the pursuit of justice, a lead that demanded immediate action and international cooperation. The quest for justice was not a solitary pursuit, but a collective effort. It was a testament to the resilience and determination of the investigators, a testament to the power of unity in the face of adversity. It was a journey filled with setbacks and triumphs, a journey that was as grueling as it was necessary. The pursuit of justice was a game of chess, a delicate balance of strategy and patience. It was a battle against time, a battle against the forces of darkness. It was a game of cat and mouse, a pursuit that was as relentless as it was perilous. Justice, as they say, may be delayed, but it is never denied. In the aftermath of the Pulwama attack, India's response was swift and decisive. The nation flexed its diplomatic muscles, putting immense pressure on Pakistan to clamp down on the terrorist outfits operating within its borders. A significant part of this pressure campaign was the Balakot airstrike, a daring operation that sent a clear message: India would not stand idle in the face of terror. This military strike was not merely a reactive measure, it signaled a paradigm shift in India's counter-terrorism strategy. It marked the first time India had crossed the line of control to carry out a preemptive strike against a known terrorist camp, a significant departure from its traditional defensive stance. This audacious move was a testament to the nation's resolve to safeguard its citizens, even if it meant pushing the boundaries of conventional norms. But the retribution was not just confined to the geopolitical arena. The Pulwama attack sparked a profound introspection within India. It triggered a reassessment of the country's security measures and policies. The nation realized that the fight against terrorism required not just military might, but also robust intelligence networks and a comprehensive security framework to nip such threats in the bud. The government responded by strengthening its internal security apparatus, enhancing intelligence sharing among different agencies, and ramping up surveillance capabilities. The incident also underscored the need for regional cooperation in the fight against terrorism, prompting India to engage more actively with its neighbors and international allies. In retrospect, the Pulwama attack was a watershed moment for India. It was a brutal wake-up call that exposed the vulnerabilities in the country's security fabric, but it also galvanized the nation into action, prompting it to reassess, recalibrate, and reinforce its defensive measures. The Pulwama attack was a dark chapter in India's history, but it also served as a grim reminder of the price of freedom and the relentless struggle against terrorism.